Hi there, I'm your host Clive Serkin, and welcome to the Unstuck podcast, where we're on a journey to help you get control of your work environment, get yourself unstuck, and perform to your full potential. Okay, welcome back to Unstuck. As you recall, I added into our mix a variation of our typical podcast where we have a guest talking about their perspective on getting unstuck. We've added into the mix a feature of companies that I believe can help you get unstuck. And the premise is, in the course of my current chapter of my career, I keep running into these extraordinary companies that I'm going like, you ought to be out there. And on the other hand, I talk to a ton of people going, I'm looking for a solution to a problem. And these two sort of opposing forces never meet. And so the purpose of this kind of podcast is to make that introduction, to make you aware of companies out there that I'm aware of that I think are incredibly interesting. And one of those is Jebbit. And I'm delighted to have Tom Coburn, who is the co-founder and CEO of Jebbit. And they talk about themselves as a provider of the world's first leading zero-party platform. So first of all, Tom, welcome. Great to have you on, my friend.
Thank you. Excited to be here.
So the reason I wanted to highlight you and Jebbit is because I think you have an incredibly unique offering, and importantly, at a very critical time. And you didn't arrive here today. You've been at this for a long time, and we'll get into that in a while. But you had the vision to sort of see into the future, if you will, and recognize what's a reality today, where zero-party data becomes so crucial in an environment with third-party data, privacy and regs and all that kind of stuff. So, and by the way, just for full disclosure, I am an advisor to Jebbit, so I just want everyone to be aware of it. But the reason I'm involved is I was just so blown away by the intelligence and simplicity of Jebbit. So let's start at the beginning. Talk about, for those people who are not there yet, talk about what is zero-party data and why it's so crucial. Let's start there, in my view.
For sure. And you're a very helpful advisor, I might add. You know a lot of people, so even more excited to be here. But so zero-party data, it's a term that Forrester has coined. It's really just a subset of first-party data. So for anyone whose wheels are spinning on trying to understand it, if your company has a first-party data goal, zero-party data fits right into it. For a long time at Jebbit, from 2017 until last year, we were calling it first-party declared data. So that's a similar name to zero-party data. Really what the distinction is most forms of first-party data are inferred, and zero-party data is explicitly given first-party data. So what I mean by that is most first-party data is things like behavioral or transactional data. You tag your website and you look at what everybody clicks on. You observe those actions. You look at what everyone has purchased through your website if you have D2C website set up. And it is extremely valuable data because it is first party. It's right from the customer, and you can get it at scale because once you tag your website, you'll track every behavior on the website, and you don't have to lift a finger. There's great technologies out there that help with that. But the challenge with those inferred forms of zero party data is you have to make guesses or inferences about what actions mean. So let's say I sell golf clubs and I see Clive comes in and clicks all around and buys a golf club. I don't actually know why. Maybe it was for you, or Clive, maybe you're getting me a great birthday present. Maybe you golf all the time.
You got ahead of me.
Maybe you golf all the time. Maybe you're just getting into golf. Maybe you're just golfing to have fun with your friends. Maybe you're trying to go play on a tour. There's just so many other actions behind observing behaviors. And so all zero-party data really means is the consumer willingly and explicitly declared information to me. Now with Jebbit, that most often happens through a quiz. So we do a quiz, find the right golf club for you, answer 5 questions. I'm willingly answering questions about how often I golf, who I golf with, etc. It could happen through just filling out a form, doing a survey. There's multiple ways to get zero-party data, but it's that willing and explicit consent that's explicitly given that makes it zero-party.
Cool. And I do want to talk a little bit more about how it plays out in terms of quizzes and stuff like that. But before we do that, who should be thinking about this? And I ask this question on 2 levels. Who in terms of like categories? Because I know you started off in one space, and now you evolved and you're very, very active in the CPG world. Who
Yeah.
should be thinking about this? And then the second level, who within the organization are you talking to and should be most involved in that?
Yeah. So we mostly work with marketing teams today. I'd say 95% of the time. Sometimes though it's sales teams, sometimes it's market research teams. Like there are examples of it being outside of marketing teams. Within the marketing org though, we honestly touch everyone. And oh, you mentioned verticals too. I mean, CPG and e-commerce are our biggest verticals, but we have customers in travel, sports entertainment, pharma, B2B, like every vertical we have customers in. I mean, there's no industry right now that can't benefit from getting zero party data, which is obviously an exciting part or place for us to be in. But within a marketing org, I think there's two categories of types of people we come across. There are people that are thinking long term about their company's data strategy. And those are the people that might have goals of, we want to capture 100 million email addresses and we want to build this database and we want to feed it in. All the data is going to go into this CDP. And once we have the data, these are the ways we're going to use it for personalization. And so those are people that are very high level strategic thinking about the future. They are not the ones who are going to get into the weeds and build a quiz and write the questions of which golf club you should find. And so the second category of people that we work very closely with on the day to day are more of the channel owners. So maybe you're the website owner and you're trying to increase conversions. Maybe you're the social media owner and you're trying to increase engagements and capture more leads to fill that database. Maybe you're the CRM leader and you're trying to figure out how do I create better emails that get people to actually open and click them, et cetera. And so that's where we're often talking less about the long-term value of the data, although that's always an element of our conversations. We're actually talking more about, hey, if you put this quiz on your website, you're going to see your conversion rates go up next week. Or, hey, if you deploy this quiz through an Instagram ad, you'll actually capture more emails to hit that short-term, Q2 goal of 1 million emails captured or whatever it is. And so those people are more the ones in the weeds building the quizzes, and they have shorter term objectives that they need to prove lifts on than just the long-term data vision.
Got it. And I think there's two parts in there. One is sort of ease of use, and I want to get into that in a moment. And I think a lot of that's behind no code. But before we get there, when I first met you and you talked about it, and I was like, I'm not sure I want to do quizzes. It's like, and what am I going to get out of that? And I talk a little bit more about use cases, and you've talked about quizzes, but there are multiple different things because my take on it, and I don't know if this take is right, is without a doubt, the ultimate end game is the collection of the data, right? And quality data.
Correct.
And the power of it is that it's declared, I'm giving it to you willingly and happily.
Correct.
And so there's a value proposition that you're giving to the consumer. But there's a significant residual value to the brand because, at least in my view, there are two things happening at a minimum beyond what we just talked about. One is you helping, first of all, you getting the consumer more engaged because the minute they start answering the questions, they're entering the door and they're getting more engaged. And if the questions are constructed smartly, it's meaningful to them. Meaningful in the sense that it helps them narrow down choice because it's this massive, overwhelming options. And if you structure the questions correctly, I would imagine it helps narrow down choice. But the other is it's a curated sort of pathway to a purchase.
Mm-hmm.
Is that fair? Is that correct to think about it that way?
Yeah, and that's part of what I was getting at with, even though we brand ourselves as a zero party data platform and the long term values the data, what a lot of people don't realize is, oh, this quiz is actually going to lift the conversions on my site. It provides a better shopping experience. We see all the time conversion rate went up, bounce rate went down, and average order value even went up because we recommended multiple products to you. Consumer came to buy X and we sent them out buying XYZ once we learned a few things about them. And so that's really why what we've created is so powerful is you can hit both those like short-term marketing KPIs that obviously matter while getting this explicitly given data versus the alternative, like, hey, let's do an email pop-up survey on our website. We all know 99% of people X that out and it's just like a bad experience. Like I'm here to buy a golf club. Why are you popping this up, this, 4C survey or whatever it might be. And so that's where one way to think about what we're doing is we're really trying to bring the worlds of market research and asking questions and blend that completely with just the world of marketing. And we need to drive sales and registrations and engagement and all of those things.
Makes total sense. Part of um, the beauty of the platform is, I would think, is the fact that it's no code. And I know I'm quite passionate about this because I know from Screen Dragon's perspective, we are essentially a no code platform. And what that means to our consumers, our customers, is that it's incredibly easy, fast, and lower cost to deploy. One,
Mm-hmm.
two, it allows us an extraordinary amount of flexibility to tailor to our customers' process, language, and way of working. And I would imagine there's a similar residual benefit of being no code. Talk a little bit about that and what exactly is no code and how that translates to a value prop as it relates to Jebbit.
Yeah, so I'll start and hit on use cases really quick, which you were just talking about before, and funnel it into the no code. So most people know us for building a quiz for your website, that golf club example we keep talking about. But when you log into the Jebbit platform, what you're actually met with is hundreds of templates for other experience types you can create beyond quizzes. So it's not just quizzes. And every experience can be built to run on any channel where you interact with your customers. So it could be on your website where you need it to obviously seamlessly blend with the website, or it could be in your emails, on your social channels, literally on QR codes, on your physical products. Like the sky's the limit of where you can run these experiences, which ultimately enables you to have our biggest customers are running thousands of Jebbit experiences across every single touch point where they see consumers, including at retail stores through QR codes and things like that. And so it creates this really powerful mechanism to get data, zero party data anywhere and everywhere. But like key and core to the success is that it has to be easy to create these, right? I can't create thousands of experiences if everyone needs my engineering team to work on it and needs like designers and all these, expensive hires. And so that's why when we say no code, you could literally log into our platform, choose a quiz template, upload your branding, your colors, fonts, logos, and in 45 minutes, design and build out an entire quiz that's ready to go live on your website. As a marketer, you don't need any design experience because we have the templates. You don't need any coding experience because all the logic is just built in, drag and drop right in the builder. And so that's really the power of this is if you're going to capture as much data as possible, it's got to be simple and easy, and it's got to be able to work at scale for hundreds, if not thousands of these experiences.
And by the way, that was the attractive thing to me that even a Neanderthal like me could do it. But
We
the,
actually do this all the time on our sales team. Our sales reps will actually just build a quiz for one of their prospects, and then they'll send it and they'll say, "Yeah, I'm just a sales guy, and look at what I built, using the platform because I don't know anything about coding or design or anything like that."
no disrespect to all the salespeople listening because we love you, but talk to me.
I am not an engineer myself. I'm sales by training, or I guess I didn't have
we
any
get
training, but
we're
yeah,
gonna get into that in a sec,
sounds
but
good.
um the and it's not a one-time deal, right? Because part of me was like, okay, I'm a brand, I do the quiz, I get this is an ongoing. There's a long tail to this in sense of you got to keep engaging and you got to change up and you got to change the quizzes. I mean, at what point do you reach diminishing return as a brand?
If as long as you are thoughtful and smart about the creative, there never is. And all I mean by that is you're always as just a business, you're always coming out with new products, new content, etc. And so sure, if you hammered people with the same thing over and over and over again, there can be a diminishing return. But a good example of this would be like the NBA as a customer. And one of the interesting things we've seen with them is they'll create all different types of content, everything from a what NBA legend is most like you to here's an interactive update of last night's playoff game you missed. Go through and you can see the highlights you want and kind of choose your own adventure through the path. And what we tell them all the time and what the data has proven is there's a certain type of fan out there who's going to love that quiz of what NBA legend they are, and there's a certain type of fan who's never going to click on that thing. They're just going to be like, I don't care. Whatever. I'm a busy executive. I don't care what NBA legend I'm most like, but maybe the 16-year-old kid who wants to be in the NBA someday loves that quiz. And then on the flip side, but maybe that busy executive, when they see here's the interactive update of the game you missed last night, they're like, this is perfect. This is the type of value I want from the NBA. And so our best customers, going back to those experience types I talked about, are running dozens of different experience types that they're putting out on all their channels because they know that's how they're going to have the widest reach, where they get as much possible data from as many different types of people in their audience.
So it's a great intersection of like quant analytics meets consumer understanding and insight and planning meets creative meets commerce.
Mm-hmm.
All come together on this arguably
Yeah.
quite simple platform.
A lot of our best brands, you've seen these different teams come together where the data and analytics team has said, okay, here are the 50 things we want to know about every customer and their list and priority orders. And then the creative team, like the person running their Instagram page or whatever, they're like, great, I'm going to make fun content and I'm just going to make sure to pull some of these questions in. So I know every time I'm engaging, I'm capturing the data team ultimately wants. And so we've seen these really cool intersections between different departments that are often never talking to each other, or in the past that just looked like the data team made a survey monkey survey and then said, here, Instagram person, can you launch this? And the Instagram person looks at it and is like, there's no freaking way I'm putting this survey on our Instagram page. That's been a lot of the tension between these teams in the past.
And on the one hand, the power is in the integration. Is that it been a challenge in terms of penetrating a company and or getting the players in a company to work together? Because my observation is not surprising. I'm sure as everyone's observation is, and the first time I featured a company, featured Spaceback, and we're talking about Casey. And part of the struggle is when you come up with a solution that bridges groups in an organization, you tend to struggle because everyone's sort of looking under their own light post for the keys, right? So has that been a challenge getting them to come together, or has that been sort of self-selecting in the sense of the kinds of companies that are going to get the best value out of it?
We have some customers where it's been flawless. Like, for example, Procter & Gamble has been great. The teams collaborate well. They run these like multi-team executions well. And then, yes, we've had a lot of customers where that's a very clear challenge. And what we've learned over time, which might seem counterintuitive, we have learned the data team is actually secondary for us, which again might be counterintuitive because we position it as a zero-party data platform. We've learned if we get the creative teams excited, they'll build these quizzes and they'll launch them and they'll go out into the wild and we'll get thousands, if not millions of people to engage with them. And even if they're asking the wrong questions because they haven't been thoughtful about it, at that point in time, we can get the data team excited once the data team realizes, whoa, this quiz is getting 400,000 people a month to complete it. And we haven't even talked to them about what questions to ask. We should start to influence it. And so when in doubt, when we found the teams butting heads, we've learned to focus on the creative team and just get experiences live, and then that will eventually get the attention of the data team and lead to more collaboration.
And is there an economic barrier to entry? Because a lot of people who listen to this podcast are sort of, Series A to Series D, but Series A, early stage growth, small sort of bootstraps, hustling kind of organizations.
The good news is, as of now, no. If you asked me that question a year and a half ago, yes. But a year and a half ago, we actually launched a free version, both through Shopify, and you can find it just searching through Google as well. But yeah, we took our experience builder and we stripped out a bunch of the more advanced enterprise features, and we did launch a much more simplified version. But you can now find that for free, and anyone can build a very simple quiz, and I believe you can get 500 people can go through it totally for free, and then you can start putting in your credit card and paying more above that. So we now have everything from that up to obviously our traditional enterprise package.
That's incredible. I did not know about that. That's very cool. So let's talk about it. If I recall, sometime early this year, January or give or take, you raised 70 million from Vista Partners, right?
Correct. Yep.
This, which is congrats, huge deal. And that was on the back of like doubling the size of your business and 300% increase in new customers. So you've really been on a run lately. This hasn't been like an overnight success. And I know, because I know you, this has been a failure on your part in the sense that you were on the way to med school. And somewhere along the way you fell off and landed up doing this. So I think it's interesting to tell the story because yes, this is about Unstuck. So you were on a track, a very clear track. You were doing what, a biology major or something like that, but you were clearly on a track to. In fact, I remember you telling me. I think you told me that you'd been accepted to med school.
Correct. Yep.
Okay,
Yeah.
and then how the hell did this happen?
So yeah, so I was at Boston College. I was a biology major. If you had met me freshman year, I would have looked you right in the eyes and I would have said 100% I will be a doctor. Just like my grandpa, who I grew up, watching to be a doctor. He's 80 years old and still practicing today. And Boston College has this really cool program with Tufts Medical School where I actually got accepted in my sophomore year. And the reason they do it is because Tufts wants more well rounded students coming in. So you have a couple of years in college to go explore other interests and not have to feel like you've got to ace every class, take the MCAT, work in a lab, all those like traditional things to get into college. I always had tons of interest, so that appealed to me. So there I was like, okay, I have this taken care of. And my roommates were all in the business school. And we pitched Jebbit as an idea in the business plan competition sophomore year and ended up winning. And that summer, I worked with a Boston College alumni out of his office. He was an investor in Boston. He kind of incubated us and helped us get going because he liked the idea. And next thing I knew, I was dropping out of college and going after the business full time. I just kind of fell in love with the idea of entrepreneurship. And, or I guess I slightly skipped a step. I took a 1 year leave of absence, and the dean at Tufts was very nice as well. He gave me a 1 year leave of absence. And then after that year, we had raised about $1 million in funding. I had 8 employees. I asked the dean at Tufts, could I have a second year leave of absence? And he said, no, Tom, I've already been very flexible. So, but at that point in time, I was all in, right? You raise $1 million,
Yeah.
you have 8 employees. Like I knew I wasn't going to med school at that point. As a fun aside, the dean at Tufts, his son did intern with us one summer a couple of
There
years
you
later.
go.
I felt bad because I had gotten this awesome spot, and he joked with me. He was like, the goal was maybe you'd use the 2 years to like take an art class or like learn the guitar, not drop out of college and start a marketing company. But yeah, I took a total 180 turn and obviously started this marketing tech data software company instead of the medicine route.
But it's classic. So, by the way, if my son's listening to this, please do not listen to this. He's
Stay
on
in
his
school.
way. He's on his way to med school. The this is this is when you guys did that competition. What are we talking about? 2000. When was it?
2011. We
2011.
won
So
the competition in 2011. Yep.
2011. So 2011. You're looking forward and you're thinking there's a proposition in first party data.
No,
Like that wasn't the deal, right?
that was not the deal. Yeah, I did not even realize.
By the way, that was the wrong answer. You're supposed to say absolutely. We could see,
Absolutely. Yeah.
goddamn genius. It could see into the
This,
future.
this is where maybe being honest will bite me. But the ironic part is I did not even utter the words first party declared data until 2017. And we obviously didn't even start talking about zero party data until Forrester coined it a few years ago. Um, the original concept was we were going to attach questions to pre-roll video ads that would verify you paid attention to the ad. So you see a Mazda commercial, we ask you how many miles per gallon were in that car, and you get paid as the consumer for answering the question, and we would only charge the advertiser if you got the answer right. So instead of them paying for views that most people are ignoring and looking at their phone or going on Facebook, they're only paying for someone who verified they paid attention and learned something from the ad. That was the original idea.
It's incredible. But the lesson in that, and I knew there was some story that I just couldn't read. But the lesson is then is like virtually every single company that I talk to that has endured over time has realized through either looking around the corner and being able to see around the corner, or because they had no other alternative and the business is about to close. They've realized the need and acted, more importantly, acted on the need to pivot. And I know you're involved in the tech scene in Boston, which I'd love to talk about because I think we got some more time. But before that, it's like the power and impact of being able to see the need for a pivot and, more importantly, act on that pivot is so crucial in my view in sustainability of a startup in the early years, and frankly, you know, throughout. I mean, how did yours came out of like sheer necessity, or what drove it? Because you've had a couple pivots
Yeah.
probably.
I mean, what drove it was our desire to build a big successful company and realizing the current thing we were doing was failing. I mean,
Yeah.
that's the core of it, and like you said, there's so many examples of this. Twitter started as like a dispatching solution for taxis, and Slack started as a video game, and you can go on with things that took a total like 180 pivot. Going from a video game to Slack is a nowhere near the same world. Ours kind of always stayed in at least the same general world of marketing and advertising and asking questions. But yeah, we first and foremost, I'll give you the very short answer or short story. First and foremost, we realized we were never going to be able to integrate with ad servers as a bunch of college kids that no one knew. Like Hulu wasn't going to do a partnership with us to overlay questions on their ads. So the first product we pivoted to and launched was kind of a derivation of that, the pre-roll ad idea. We launched a website just for college kids. You had to use a .edu to log in, and we would just serve you videos and brands on our site. So we controlled it all. It was easier to build technically, and we would just pay you for answering those questions correctly. And so we did that for 2 years. We actually raised $2 million in funding and dropped out of school with that idea. And then at the end of 2013, I just realized this was never going to be a big $1 billion company. Like, it was incentivized marketing. The kids only cared about getting their beer money. They didn't really care about the brands. And it was a marketplace. So we had to bring both brands and consumers to the table, which just draws a lot of resources from a small company. And so we kind of bounced around a bit, didn't really know what we were going to do. We just knew we were pivoting, and our early stage investors were very supportive of us pivoting. They said, we invested in you guys, not the product. So pivot, figure it out. Just don't spend a lot of our money while you figure it out. Keep the team small. And we did that. And in like 2015, we really started getting some traction on being a SaaS platform. So no longer a marketplace, but just be a software that brands license for quizzes on their website. But it wasn't about the data. It was about, we can help you convert users at a higher rate. And we talked a lot about the shift to mobile and how if you have, 50 pairs of golf clubs on your website and you got this desktop site, and all everyone told us they did were like, how are you solving mobile? Oh, we made it responsive. It doesn't do a lot. Like, if you think about the mindset of a consumer, I'm in line at Starbucks. I have 30 seconds. I see your Instagram ad. I swipe up and go to your site. And now I have to scroll for 5 minutes on 50 pairs of golf clubs. Like,
Ain't gonna
that's a
happen.
crappy user experience. And we just said, greet them with a quiz, ask them 5 questions, get their email so they can buy it later, or let them buy now once you give them the recommendation. And did that for 2 years, and then realized, whoa, the big value here is actually in the data. The quiz is great to drive sales in the moment, but we
Right.
were starting to see the privacy legislation come down the pipe. Kind of assumed where the world was going with these Facebook and Apple changes now, and Google and Apple changes, sorry. And that's when we really leaned into zero party data, and obviously that's what's led to all the growth recently.
Okay. In the boss, like, I'm obviously passionate about Chicago. The Chicago tech scene has just taken off like a rocket ship.
Yeah.
I recently had Michael Fassnacht, who's CMO of Chicago and CEO of the World Business Council. It's like incredible sort of, and really dynamic, and it's done wonders, I think, in terms of bringing talent in and keeping
Yeah.
talent here. And that, I know you're involved in the Boston tech scene, and talk a little bit about, and why you, is it part of like Pay It Forward, and what are you doing and what's it like?
Yeah. So I did Techstars Boston, and I still do a little bit through that, but I'm mostly involved with, it's actually the Boston College entrepreneurship ecosystem. So I started a summer accelerator program and a fund. It's a small fund. We've got about $5 million under management, but we do seed stage investing in Boston College entrepreneurs. So you could be a current student or you could be alumni. We actually just did a deal with an entrepreneur in Chicago, but she's a graduate of Boston College. She's in Chicago now. And so, yeah, we've got about 30 companies now in our portfolio. We've probably heard about 400 pitches, over the last few years. And I've just been blown away by how many Boston College alumni there are out there starting companies. We're on our third fund now, because when we started, I figured, there's maybe like 25 alumni out there starting companies. And I was just, very, very wrong about that. And I'm sure many other alumni ecosystems are the exact same way, but it's been really cool to see that over the last, 5 or so years since we started it.
It's great. It's great to give back, and it's such a dynamic environment. Anyway, we're gonna, first of all, you're getting calls from customers, so you need to go and take them. But
Sorry about that.
don't worry, don't worry. It's always good. Listen, as I said in the beginning, I am an advisor to Tom and to Jebbit, so I'm not entirely objective, technically speaking. But my intention is to expose people to ideas out there, to platforms out there that I think are unique, novel, and game changers. And I'm very clear in my conviction that I think Jebbit is. And so I'm glad we got a chance to talk. It's always fun to hang out with you. I appreciate you making the time, sir. And I would just encourage people to reach out if they can to Tom. You can tell them how to get a hold of you.
Yeah. Tom at Jebbit.com is easiest. I'm on LinkedIn too. But yeah, whether you're a entrepreneur and you want to chat about your idea, or you're a brand and you want to get ZeroParty data, reach out for either reason.
Tom, always a joy, my friend. Thanks for making the time. Appreciate it.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me.
Amen.
This podcast was brought to you by ScreenDragon. We break down barriers, make work flow, and unlock talent. Visit ScreenDragon.com to see our software in action.